Testing 1, 2. I would like to apologize on how bad my start is with YouTube. And I'm going to try to get my ship together. I won't abandon the ship yet. But really, Unitivity is it's a new religious state of mind. Unitivity represents all the flow of electricity that makes the whole universe, all the flow of light, field theory. Everything's the field theory of light. No matter what it is, that's what it's made out of. And like the world was flat, and then they thought the sun went around the earth. And, so I'm trying to future-proof the homeschooling of the planet with this. For real, I'd like to see the whole planet listen to this and do it. I know it's ridiculous, but now that the technology is there to do it, maybe everyone will realize the song Imagine from John Lennon was inspired by World Game, which was the opposite of war games that Buckminster Fuller invented, on how to make the whole world work without trespassing on any individual. So Unitivity is right in the pocket of Star Wars saying the Force be with you, because really the Force is what Einstein stated, that the minimum word to explain the universe is inertia. Inertia means that it's the movement, total mode reciprocity of all the elements and energy of the universe. The unified field theory, consciousness, which I think I broke through this by stating that everything changes only the radius but stays the same speed. And I think that actually explains the unified field theory. But and I've talked to some pretty good physicists on my airport shuttle, talking about the amount of area they sweep out. Like 500 square miles is swept out by one electron in a second. So if you add them all together in Earth and the Moon out to vacuum, all those areas would add up to the same area that the Earth and the Moon sweep out around the Sun. That'd be the conservation energy theory. No one's ever thought of that before on Earth. And I call that the Unitivity theory. And I also a unific theory. And I call it the orbitronical area versus the solar area being the same. So in reality, the force is being the same as all this energy motion going the speed of light, which is the 186,000 miles a second, which is basically the harmonic mean in which all energy is flowing in the whole universe. Now it'll fluctuate, and when they do change the experiments in the speed of light meters here and there, so it's always moving around, because the whole universe is at a balance of inertia. So, but everything goes what's called precession, and this is angular momentum, and Kepler's second law of thermodynamics is entropy, and everything goes from one orbit to another orbit, no matter what. They always constantly going to change orbits. They're not eternal, except the whole one is. But now the size of the universe is one for sure. There's only one volume we're all living in, and you can call it God or Mecca or whatever, whatever you, I forget all. There's 45,000 religions on Earth. Some of them were only invented when they hit America. So, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses and all these different things. Now, they're all equal in the sense that they all relate to living in the volume and being a good boy or good girl, and the Ten Commandments. And then, you know, the history, it took 6,000 years for people to design a democracy. For instance, Jesus, when he was invented, which really the universe is an omnidirectional flow of speed of light elements and photons, and it just makes human beings out of basic Darwinian evolution. So in a way, every human being is made as God's son or daughter in that respect. So taking that view relative to the first consciousness of the whole making somebody, Jesus comes around and says that there's no more 1,000 gods like in early Rome and Greek and all these Greek gods and everything. That there was only one God, you know, which is actually, we're still stuck at that level, which should be just one volume we all live in, and you describe it. Now, the best way to describe it is take experiments and measure everything and use numbers. When Algorithm released the zero in early Europe, that allowed for Kepler and all these scientists, you know, to occur, so they could measure. And then they made different tools like the telescope and microscope, and then started finding things like the aspirin bark of a tree and stuff, you know, or penicillin, which is all by accident in a way, but it's trial and error. So what I'm getting at is that all humanity just needs to vote to become one big town on planet Earth, and that we share the resources equally to everybody. Now, that seems completely ridiculous, but if you take your family and you go to the dinner table, you don't say to the other person at the end of the table, we're not going to feed you. You know, we got plenty of food here on the table, but you don't get any. So that's what's going on right now on planet Earth. We spend enough money on atomic bombs and all these different ridiculous killingry projects to make enough money to give everybody anything they want to be on research and development as a scientist, to figure out how to be the next Steve Jobs or whoever's next, you know, to learn ways of doing more with less for the whole planet, to become a success for all humanity. Now, there's only say 7 or 8 billion people coming up here. There's no real, if you give people electricity, they have less children. This is a fact, and it's Buckminster Fuller discovered this in early Argentina and some of the southern countries, as they gave them, because you don't have as many people to work on the farm and all this stuff. The more electricity you have, you travel, then you don't have as many children. So there's no big population problem. There's just a electricity sharing problem. And this will solve all population problems. And also it'll get everybody computers where they can Google and educate themselves and go on research development as their own project. Now, it's very important for everybody to say to themselves, I'm with the force of Unitivity. And Unitivity can be a political party, and say but it's basically just based on science. So when you vote for a president that believes in, who respects and truthfully gives the integrity of science in their decisions, then you're voting for Unitivity. But you're voting for science. Science is actually the future religion of the whole planet, and it's extremely important that everybody re-educate or unlearn all the things that makes that concept of religion versus science, because that just comes from the early days when religious were political powers along with the king, and the king would get good guy, bad guy with the state and the church. That's why in America they have church and state being separated, because it always causes a lot of trouble, because the church does underhanded stuff with the king, and it helps divide and conquer and solicit lies and stuff to keep them in power. So I know everybody thinks, well, everyone's going to be so selfish, nobody's going to give up anything they have. But in reality, whenever you go to the moon in one capsule and everybody shares the food, no one's saying, I'm keeping the food on my side of the capsule. You know, it's ridiculous to one side of the ship have a war with the other side of the ship when there's plenty to go around, because there's do more with less. They didn't have refrigeration, you know, when Malthus was around, when they said there's not enough to go around, you had to have war. So that's all ridiculous now. So the force be with us all is basically assuming that everything is the speed of light, going in inertia, and that we just apply here in a bunch of knots of light, and we happen to be here through the God-given, and you can call Unitivity God or the universe, but I call it God too, and or Allah or anything you want to call it. They're all the same, but it's the same volume. So, but it's better to attach yourself to the theory of what's happening more to science and numbers, so that you can make decisions that are more valid. So please consider, I'm just trying to get this off the ground, and I'll try to get this better as we go, because it's the future of the planet. There's no other choice. And if you don't do it this, we're going to end up with atomic wars, and for nothing, and everybody take another 10,000 years or something maybe to try to redo it, or if anyone's left. So we still don't know if we're going to get hit by a meteor and wipe us all out anyway. And you know, so, and you're only going to be here and you're going to die in around 80 years. Now I'm at 75, so I'm devoting the rest of my time to communicate these options. Thank you.